So I believe that now we're going to move on to our second session this evening, and I'd like to welcome both Derek and Ross. So hi guys, welcome to the STACS Virtual Festival. So glad that you are both here.
Thank you very much.
And I hear that you are coming all the way from Dumfries and Galloway.
We are the far-flung distance of Dumfries and Galloway here.
This random fact here, I used to live in a street called Nith Lane, and nobody had a clue what the Nith meant, how to spell it, or what it was all about.
The River Nith, famous
exactly.
river.
Right, so over to you guys. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you. Okay, thanks very much for attending the session tonight. My name is Derek Harris, and above me on my screen is Ross Kennedy. And today we are going to talk to you about the National Progression Award of Computing Technology. Before we start, I should say the qualification has not yet been published. However, I would like to bring to your attention that the units have been validated, but the course award has not yet been validated, but that should be done very soon. Okay, a wee bit of background around why this course came around. Both myself and Ross, myself to start with, because Ross is actually a background in physics to start with. Once the new national qualifications come in, I noticed a decrease in the numbers in my current school. I went from 2 classes of 20 down to a class of national 4, 5 and 6 with 7 kids in it. So we found at that point I looked for a need for a course that provided a smoother transition into different kinds of computing backgrounds. And the one I looked at to start with was cybersecurity. And looking at that course, it was really it was a really very good course. It was enjoyable for the pupils to do, but again, it was quite narrow. It looked as if it was just going down one route, and we felt that we needed a course that had multiple routes and encompassed all or a lot of the computing areas. Looking at the national again, we could say that there was a lot of programming within that, and it wasn't anything to do with let's take programming out. It was just to make it a bit more fair weighted within the curriculum. And I also felt there was a need for the gender imbalance was starting to appear again with the computing science qualification. Ross then decided to become dual qualified. We both actually worked at Douglas Stewart High School in Dumfries and Galloway, and we introduced HNC computing because we saw that as a way to provide pupils with qualifications that interested them and qualifications that they felt would be valued by employers. But the problem with the HNC was that it wasn't for everybody, and it was at a level 7, which was advanced higher, so it didn't meet the needs of all our pupils. So what we really wanted to do was revitalise the curriculum and provide a course that would give a smoother transition into the HNC. That grew arms and legs a wee bit because we approached SQA and asked them if we could bring something to the table in terms of a new qualification and a new course. Again, provided positive pathways from the junior phase all the way through into S6, and that was really important for us so that we could have that continuation all the way up to S6 and then also into modern apprenticeships and employment. We are from a rural background, and there was a lot of interest from, computing companies that work down here. in terms of what we were teaching within the curriculum, because a lot of kids were moving down to Glasgow or moving to the cities, and they would like to have kept some homegrown talent. So I think Ross will talk a bit more about that later on. Also, we made sure that what we were looking at matched up with the Woods report. Now, that's an older report, but now the Hayward report also brings in that idea that our learners should have more vocational courses, more chances for apprenticeships and modern apprenticeships.
So that's the background of where this came from originally. And as Derek mentioned there, we put together a proposal which was taken to the SQA, and this is the basis of that proposal, the brief that we wanted to achieve with this new qualification. First thing is we absolutely wanted it to be a recognised group award, so that it was considered valuable by parents, pupils, school leaders, other partners, employers, etc. Because whilst we totally appreciate you could go down different units and use the range of existing units that are there, we felt that parents, particularly parents, wouldn't see that as a recognised award. So we wanted this new award that was recognised by all. Originally, we wanted to use existing SQA units, but as the development of this qualification has gone along, we have actually introduced new units, and new units have been created. We wanted it to be 24 credit points, and again, that was particularly important because we wanted it to be seen as the same value as a national qualification, which a lot of NPAs are 18 credits. So again, that was a little bit different for this qualification, going in there at 24 credit points. Probably most importantly, we wanted it to be a broad qualification that covered a variety of aspects of computing, including hardware, networking, and programming, amongst other stuff as well. And actually, as the development of this has gone on, it's been nice to see lots of other things come into it, which we hadn't considered at the beginning, and really reinforcing that idea of computing is this broad subject and can go down lots of different routes. It was also important that it could be delivered in schools, colleges, centres with the resources they have, with existing resources. Certain qualifications, Derek and I were chatting earlier about the NPA cybersecurity, which some schools have struggled to deliver because of the resources required to do that. So we were keen to have options for schools and centres to go down certain routes of practical and do more specialist things, but we didn't want it to be a requirement. We wanted it to be open to all, and sort of easy to get on board with. We were talking about progression into HNC computing, just because we wanted to keep it broad. But actually, the way the qualification has come out, it provides pathways into lots of different routes. And the next slide, we go into a little bit more detail on possible progression pathways. Again, really important, we wanted it offered at levels 4, 5, and 6. And actually, Derek will maybe touch on this more when we talk about the sort of consultation process, but there was appetite there for level 3, although currently it's only level 4, 5, and 6 that has been developed. We wanted it to be ready to deliver from now, well, from August. And so despite it not being published quite yet, we're still on track, as far as I'm aware, that for delivery in 24-25. So that's good. Here is an example progression pathway. And as I say, because of the broad nature of the qualification, there is loads of different progression pathways. So this is just very much an example. So offering in S4, NPA Computing Technologies at levels 4 or 5. And then from there, potentially progressing into HNC computing in across 2 years, part-time across 2 years, S5 and S6. And whether that's delivered in school, Derek and I delivered that in school. But in my current school, we also have links with the college where our pupils can do HNC computing over 2 years through College Academy. Then, or another potential option is to progress on to level 5 or 6 in S5, or go down another NPA route, specialise in cyber or games development or whatever might be of interest. This just gives them a broad foundation that allows learners to go on and pursue their interests and go in lots and lots of different routes. And then post-school, whether leaving at the end of S4, S5 or S6, that allows them to go on and study at college, HNC, HND, potentially straight into employment, or into higher education through the university route.
Okay, so once we'd taken that proposal to SQA, I had the opportunity to be the lead developer on this. So we had to provide our due diligence on whether this course was viable. So a number of interviews and research had to be undertaken, and it was quite a vast process, should I say, to try and get a wide range of people to interview. And as you can see there, we interviewed people from STACS. I'm clearly not going to go into names here, but certainly their backgrounds. We had 2 people from Skills Development Scotland, who inputted quite greatly into the award, what they would like to see within it. We spoke to a number of head teachers as well, who were also computer qualified. We also looked at our teachers that are doing the bread and butter of the day. SQA managers were involved. We had somebody from a multinational IT company which employ over 4,000 IT specialists. We had an MSP from the Scottish Government there and a former HMI inspector. So we had a good wide range of people that were inputting into this qualification and what they would like to have seen within that qualification. They were all given the same questions, so that we could compare and create a very statistical, quantifiable outtake from that outlook. We then passed that over to the teachers for the research, and the survey had 273 responses. And incredibly, speaking to SQA, that is the largest response survey to a new qualification that they had or they've had, which says that underneath. There was a clear need within that survey for a new qualification. And throughout it, identified that they wanted to see less programming within it. They didn't say they didn't want any programming, and I must stress that this isn't a qualification for just getting rid of programming. It's not that at all. There is programming in the mandatory units, but it's of a proportion that we felt was acceptable, and it was opposite from the new national qualification that was currently there, in terms of being a wider, broad-based qualification, and everybody noted that from the research. Ross will put up the qualification framework next, but what I would like to say about that qualification framework is that the 9 optional units, or the optional units, should I say, were taken from the responses of the teachers. So we've certainly listened to them. So they are the top 9 responses from the teachers.
So probably the bit you're most interested in is what is actually in the qualification. So we have taken a similar structure to the HNC in this idea of having optional units to allow for sort of personalisation and to suit the learner, suit the centre, that sort of thing. So the qualification is made up of 2 mandatory units and 2 optional units. So mandatory units, obviously everybody does those. Computing Foundation, an introductory unit to get that sort of foundation knowledge, and we'll go into more detail on what's involved there. And a computing project, which will likely take place towards the end of the course, bringing skills together. And then we have this list of 9 optional units. of which you would choose 2. And so this leaves it entirely open to go down whatever route you wish, which is a real benefit. You can see there that there are some existing units. You'll also notice some of these units are taken from other NPAs, so there's potential crossover if you're already offering NPAs, the likes of esports, cyber, that sort of thing. There's also some new units in there, particularly artificial intelligence and emerging digital technologies, which offer something entirely new and right up to date, which pupils are sort of really engaged with.
Thank you. Okay. So we've got 2 mandatory units. That also came from the feedback and through the interview that people would like to see a qualification that gave options for both teachers and also our students. The 2 mandatory units within the framework provide all learners with the same foundational knowledge of computing. And it was an opportunity for us to develop meta skills, which was high in SDS, Skills Development Scotland's agenda. So as I said, we've tried to take everybody's needs into consideration here. The optional 2 units within the framework again provides centres design course around available resources. Ross already hit on that. So there may be some centres out there that are rich with hardware and the physical components, which can do a lot of practical elements of the course. However, we also wanted to make the course available to centres which didn't have or weren't as fortunate to have the physical resources, so they could do a more practical, a more theory-based approach to this course. It also allowed opportunities to customise the course for local employers, and again, I think I touched on that earlier. We have local employers who look for networkers and hardware designers, and what they were finding was a lot of those students ended up in universities in Glasgow and didn't come back to the area. So with the companies that we're working with, some of them have offered the provision that we would have apprenticeships for our students as long as we brought them out with the qualifications or the practical skills that they need. Again, what was good was there was an opportunity for teaching staff to focus in areas of their expertise also, which we felt was very important to enthuse those pupils into different areas of computing, clearly alongside the pupil voice aspect of where they would like to go also. And it gives that personalisation and choice for the learners throughout their course qualification. And I'd like to also point out, when Ross went through the framework, each one of those optional units is available at level 4, 5 and 6. So I think that's a good personalisation and choice for the learners, maybe moving on to different years. So in 4th year they may choose some of the options and may go back to choose another few of the options, whether they were successful or unsuccessful or not.
I'll just jump in there because I see a comment. Optional units will be really beneficial in tailoring to local needs. And so when I joined my current school, Dalbeattie High School, they didn't offer computing at all. And so it was a case of reintroducing computing science. And I remember going to a local employer, Computing Technologies, and first of all, they were surprised, shocked that the local high school didn't offer computing, and they were like, well, that kind of explains why we struggle to recruit local young people. Very pleased to hear that that we were going to be reintroducing it. And when I started talking through the national qualification, they were like, yeah, that's great, but what about this? What about the hardware? What about they work with servers and do a lot of networking work, and so they were like, that's missing. And again, that allows us, that optional framework allows us to sort of work with our local employers and say, well, if you need people who can refurbish servers, then we can do the hardware unit. You can come in, you can work with the learners and really tailor it to suit local employers and that local need. Just to go into, we don't want to go into all of the optional units in detail because they won't be relevant to everybody, but we do want to pick up on the 2 mandatory units because everybody will be doing those. So, Derek, if you want to go through Computing Foundations.
Yep. So Computing Foundations really is an introductory unit to give learners a broad overview of computing, and that was done deliberately. And again, that's why it's called Computing Foundations. We wanted to give a good foundation, a theory-based foundation for all our learners. Looking at hardware and systems, we've got software in there as well, and there was a real pull when we decided that we were going to introduce software in it. I think software had to be in it, but it was how we made that accessible for all. The current course, the national courses, have students writing code blindly in exams, etc. I remember when it first came out, with having to really learn Haggis as well as a pseudocode for them. We wanted to introduce software and have a basis for that, so kids not actually, or our learners, should I say, not writing software, but interpreting the software, modifying given software to show a proper understanding of that software without actually having to write the code. And I think that's really good, as in it will show the understanding, but not having to remember how the code is set out as such, the structure of the code. We were aware that we would have an optional unit, so if our learners did want to look into software or delve into software a wee bit more in terms of structure of code, there was a software optional unit that those pupils could go down. As Ross has already pointed out, networking was a big thing down in our area for our local employers, but also I think that is missed, especially with the way that we're working these days. The world of the internet of things, they're all networked. I think we kind of missed that networking journey in the national course. Data science was in there as well, and emerging technologies within this Computing Foundation course. That gives a broad basis, and people might look at that and say there was an awful lot in that, and absolutely there is, but there's not too much depth. It's more breadth to give that foundation for the pupils to be able to go into the other units. There is a bit of overlap in there depending on which units that the pupils go into, which is really good, because when they go into that optional unit, they feel that they're already they have that transitional based learning approach. Ross mentioned earlier, I know it's not in this unit, I should have picked it up, about artificial intelligence. New unit. That's the first artificial intelligence unit been written across Britain, I believe. So we're certainly leading on the new artificial intelligence front in terms of course content.
So the second mandatory unit, which is the project unit, we are thinking it will come towards the end of the course and gives learners the opportunity to apply everything they've learned throughout the course in a sort of more real-life work-based project with a real focus on developing the meta skills required to be an effective team member. And so the project is completely open to depending on what optional units that the learner has completed. So if they had gone down the hardware route, the project could be building a computer. If they had gone down the networking route, it could be configuring a simple network. But all projects will involve some sort of project plan, some sort of design, an implementation of a solution, testing the solution, and then an evaluation of their contribution and the development of their meta skills. In terms of the sort of assessment and the evidence required, it's all naturally occurring evidence. So they create a project plan, the plan is the evidence. They design it, there's the evidence. So it's designed in a way that it's that it is natural and it flows, and it does have that slightly more work-based focus, which I'm personally really looking forward to delivering. Obviously working in groups, and that final outcome there, talking about their contribution, again, we wanted to focus more on learners evaluating their skills rather than the project as a whole. So certainly at level 4 and level 5, the evaluation aspect is concentrated on them and their development. Level 6, it does touch on evaluating the project as well. So that gives you a bit of a sort of introduction, broad overview of the new qualification. We don't want the conversation to stop there. Obviously, it will be published very soon, and there's probably more questions and sharing of ideas and resources and that kind of thing. So I believe Brendan has created an NPA Computing Technologies area within STACS Connected, and there is also now an NPA Computing Technologies channel on the Computing Science Scotland team, which I know both are sort of very active places. So hopefully you will be able to access one of those and keep up to date with when it's published, that sort of thing, as well as contribute your ideas and resources going forward.
Could I just jump in there, Ross, a wee second as well? There's a question down in the comments about how much do the learners have to write, describe, do, etc. Well, we are absolutely, it's on the screen now. I think when we started to undertake this, we saw there was a need as well in terms of the National 4, current National 4. We didn't feel that it was equal to other National 4s across different subjects. So hopefully what we've done here is bring the level 4 in alignment with other subjects, level 4s. For instance, in geography, I asked them to just name capitals in certain areas, which was completely different to our National 4, our current National 4. So we kind of envisaged that Solar would get used quite a bit for multiple choice type questions, Nicole. So hopefully that would help with the where you've asked about describe and evaluating the computer program project. Ross would be able to probably give you some more information on. Yeah.
So as a general rule, although not all the time, but general rule, level 4, the word used is state. Level 5 is describe, and level 6 is evaluate. So there is clear progression there. But in terms of the writing or the reporting required for the project unit, as I say, it's all naturally occurring, and it can take a variety of forms. So it's not the unit specification does not require them to write a report. It might be that they can produce evidence in another way, a poster or something like that, and that's totally acceptable. In terms of evaluating their skills, will likely that could potentially just be evaluating on a scale of saying, well, how have they developed in a particular meta skill, collaborating, for example, and maybe a sentence to justify their rating out of 10 or whatever that might be. I see a question there, will there be assessment support packs produced? My understanding is that assessment support packs will be produced for the 2 mandatory units. Some of the optional units may already have assessment support packs, some of the existing ones. I'm not sure about the new optional units. I don't think they are. Derek, if you
we're unsure whether they're going to have the aspect, as Ross has mentioned already. Some of the current ones are already there. The new ones will get assessment support packs, as far as I'm led to believe. That is in the pipeline. There's also somebody mentioning about materials for delivering this available. Well, we've hopefully, there's a number of things we can say in here. Hopefully the unit specifications give a wee bit more information than the standard unit specifications. Certainly in the computer foundations, there's a good bit of information there, or guidance on assessment and knowledge that the pupils will need to be aware of. So that those will come, and also the unit specification will hopefully have a wee bit more information. It will give a wee bit more description than it does in others.
And we're hoping that the computing science community will come together in terms of sharing resources and sharing ideas, because I'm very, very aware that we are good at that, particularly with STACS. So taking the lead on that and coordinating it with the shared drive and that sort of thing. Just having a look to see if there's any other questions that we've missed. Can you give an example of how learners can win a specific apprenticeship? So my experience of how learners get apprenticeships or are successful in getting an apprenticeship is through work experience and sort of working with employers before they're applying for an apprenticeship. It's that old saying of it's who you know, not what you know. And so we've had a number of pupils, not just in terms of computing, but just across the school, who have successfully gone on to study an apprenticeship. And generally speaking, that is because they've done work experience at school. They've done a visit as part of our DYW work. They've gone out to visit the employer and had a tour around the place, or the employer has come in as part of the subjects that they're studying. And I think that is really important. And I think this qualification offers lots of opportunity for those employers and partners to come in and work with pupils, develop those contacts, so that when they are leaving school and they're considering employment or apprenticeship, then they already are known by local employers. I think you're on mute, Debbie.
Yeah, I can't hear you, Debbie.
And I was talking away as well. So it was just me saying thank you so much for all the work that you guys have been doing. It looks like there's going to be some great opportunities coming. And on a personal note, AI is back, and I am happy, because that was my favourite topic, teaching with old intermediates. So just hope that we can catch up again at another STACS event. And I've got a wee note in here from Brendan saying that maybe we could have a STACS event hosted down in Dumfries and Galloway. That would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that would be good.
It would be great. Right. Again, guys, thank you so much.